Welcome back to your live continuing coverage of the New York International Auto Show 2016 on BeTerrific, an official media partner of the New York Auto Show. We're so excited about that. You are looking at a live look of the Porsche booth here at the Auto Show. You are the Terrifics. You make BeTerrific special. I love Porsche. Porsche is in the house. I've got Frank joining me. Frank, thank you so much for joining us on set. This is the 718, and this is a debut here in New York City.
Yeah, thanks for having me. 718 Boxster, the latest generation of our mid-engine sports car. I don't know if you know this, but the Boxster was introduced 20 years ago.
Wow,
so actually,
is it that long?
It's the 20th anniversary of the car.
Wow.
This year. And here today we have the latest generation, lots of changes. Obviously, visually, you can see the car is a sharper design, front fascia, rear fascia, all new. Every body part except the luggage compartment lid, the convertible top, and the windshield is different. Totally new design. What
I love about the Boxster is this is the car that basically revitalized Porsche, because you were able to build this car, make it somewhat affordable, give it some power, have it be a mid-engine, have it be a cabrio so people could enjoy it. And also, it was able to share parts at that point, which I don't think it does that much anymore, with the new 911 at that point, which saved the company a lot of money, allowed you guys to produce a whole new breed of cars and kind of revitalize the brand. And it's really, I think, it's the car that saved Porsche.
That's certainly a strong case to be made. And as you know, Boxster stands for the combination of boxer engine and roadster. And that's the car that really, the key points behind that car were really a car that's fun to drive, hence the mid-engine layout, terrific balance. BeTerrific, so we're going to say terrific
I love
balance.
it. Thank you.
Great sound and just ultimate driver involvement. That car has won so many awards, not because it has a ton and ton and ton of horsepower, or 0 to 60 in 1.5 seconds or whatever, but just because it's so engaging and thrilling to drive. You feel so confident and in tune with the car and how it's going down the road that it's just a really great driving experience.
I love the vehicle. I think it's a tremendous vehicle. I love mid-engine cars too. I love how they're balanced. And I know somebody was in a bad accident in one and walked away without a scratch. So it's also a very safe vehicle, as are most Porsches. Talk about the 718 designation. It seems like now you're going towards a numeral for the Boxster as well, and combining the Cayman in with that as well. Is that correct?
That's correct. So falling in line with 911 designations, 911 Carrera, 911 Targa, 911 Turbo. Now the 718 has the 718 designation because it's harking back to the 718 race car which was also a four-cylinder mid-engine race car of the late 50s, early 60s, won the Targa Florio, and a very successful car that beat a lot of more powerful competitors. It had a small engine, but it was very, very competitive. And the Boxster is very much the same way. We're not about producing the maximum amount of horsepower. It's really a blend of having a good performance engine-wise, but also having the chassis to match and the car being usable every day. A lot of our customers, most of them, drive their cars every day. So the car should be good at doing not just high-performance driving, but it should also be fun, engaging, as you said, safe, efficient to drive in your day-to-day commute.
That's the thing I love about Porsche the most, is that they're reliable and they're drivable every day. They're durable and they're great cars. I like the Cayman a lot. Again, mid-engine, and you've just got a great lineup. The fit and finish is always great. Let's look at the 911. You've got a white 911 in the booth, and it's beautiful. Here it is. This is a special 911, is it not?
This is a very special 911. There's only 991 units of the 911R, which is also a play on the 911R of 1967, which was a really lightweight 911 race car. This car is obviously for the road, but it follows the same principle. It's based on the 911 GT3, has the GT3 RS engine, so the 4-liter, 500 horsepower, naturally aspirated flat six. And unique on this car, manual transmission only. 6-speed manual transmission for the enthusiast, magnesium roof, carbon fiber front fenders, carbon fiber hood, everything to keep the weight down. The car is just over 3,000 pounds. It's by far the lightest 911 of the range. Taking out the PDK also saves weight. This car is not about lap times.
Yeah.
This car, it does 0 to 60 in 3.7, 200 miles an hour. All of that's great, but this car ultimately is about the ultimate driving experience in a 911, as pure, as raw, as unfiltered as it gets.
I'm sure the enthusiasts love it. I love it, and I love having a manual gearbox. The PDK is great. You've done a great job with it, but having a manual gearbox is unbelievable. And I love how you really have to drive these cars, but you really want to drive them, and they're just a lot of fun. You talked about not having to have the most horsepower of anything out there, but when you talk about 0 to 60 times in acceleration, you're right there with everybody else. I think, as you said, it's a good balance. And we had somebody on here yesterday who was talking about I said, what's your favorite car ever? And they said, well, my first car that I rebuilt with my dad, and this is a GM guy, said it was a 914. And they still have it, and they talked about how much fun they have. And, today it would be underpowered, but back then it was certainly, for what it was very fast. And then a lot of people dropped 911 flat sixes in there, which is pretty amazing as well. You guys are doing something new with the C4s, right? The C4Ss. You're putting. Are you putting turbos in all the C4Ss?
All of the new 2017 911 models, so we call them the 9912s, the 911 Carreras, which includes the Carrera 4 models.
Okay.
A Carrera
S
and Carrera 4S.
Even for a Carrera 4 and a 4S have turbos in them.
Yes, 3-liter twin turbo engines. More efficient than the engines before, more powerful, more torque. The big advantage of those engines is really, the biggest advantage is the torque.
Sure.
The cars have much more torque in the low RPM range. Very, very noticeable when you're driving the car day to day. It's much more responsive than before, and it really enhances the 911 driving experience even further than it was already the case.
Well, one of my favorite cars is the Turbo S. So, I mean, getting turbos in a C4S is really nice, or a C4 or a C2.
Right.
That's really great.
Right.
And then you've got another debut here.
We do.
Yeah.
We do. We have the new 2017 Macan.
Yeah.
Which is also turbocharged, as all Macans are. This one has a 4-cylinder engine developing 252 horsepower, 273 foot-pounds of torque.
Wow.
Can be customized in terms of options, equipment, appearance, just like any other Macan. But starting price of $47,500.
See, that's what I like.
Tremendous value.
It's a great entry-level price. It's a beautiful-looking car, and you get a lot of features and drivability, and you get Porsche for that, and 252 horsepower is pretty good.
Right, right. Not everyone needs the Macan Turbo is great, 0 to 60 in the low 4-second range, but not everybody needs that kind of power. But they love the handling, they love the quality of the car. We were talking about the design earlier. They love the way it looks, and there's no sacrifices to be made on the standard Macan.
Sure.
You're just getting into that whole upscale feeling for less than on the other models.
We were just showing, I think, it might have been a GT3. Can we go back to that shot real quick, Kevin?
That's actually the Cayman GT4.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's beautiful.
So that's based on the still current 981 generation Cayman. What happened on that car was our GT department got its hands on it, and the whole front axle is taken from the 911 GT3.
Okay.
The brakes are taken from the 911 GT3. The engine is taken from the previous, so it's a naturally aspirated engine still, from the previous 911 Carrera S. It's a 385 horsepower engine in a Cayman that's been stripped down in terms of weight and has GT3 suspension and brake components. So you can imagine what this car drives
Look
like.
at that front air dam and the cooling that you have in the front. That's unbelievable. What a beautiful car. I really love the Cayman, so that's something that's special. We're talking German basically to DJ, who's operating the camera there in the booth and doing it so marvelously. The Macan is an SUV, a small SUV, so let's have him find the Macan. We'll get back to talking about that. But hold on, wait till he shows us the back of this car. Have him show us that huge tail there.
Yeah, so it's optional ceramic brakes on that car.
Beautiful.
And then the wing, which can be adjusted in 2 positions. So there's a higher downforce setting if you're going to a track or something. You can make those adjustments. So it's really a car drivable on the road, no doubt, but
that's beautiful.
Very, very performance focused.
What's the price point on this car?
That car starts at $84,600.
Beautiful. What a great looking car. That's awesome. And is there any chance we'll see a Cayman or a Boxster in all-wheel drive?
There's no plans for that at the moment. Just like on the 911, we have the mid and rear engine layout giving us really, really good traction. Mm-hmm. Now, there are people, the 911 is a more luxurious car than the Cayman and Boxster, obviously. There are people in those markets, northeastern U.S. and Europe, especially in the mountainous regions, that like the added security and traction of an all-wheel drive car that, again, these people are driving the car every day. In winter, it makes sense, but we believe that for the Boxster and the Cayman, it's about keeping the car agile and keeping the weight down. And when you have an all-wheel drive system, does add a bit of weight. We've managed to keep that weight increase as minimal as it can be on the 911, but on a car that's even lighter like the Boxster, we feel that the mid-engine layout and the tremendous traction that already gives is sufficient.
I'm betting one day you will figure it out. If anybody wants to know about Porsche, by the way, you guys have this great video that's making the rounds on all the different networks. Discovery, I've seen it on. It's on, I think, Netflix too, that takes you into the Porsche factory. I'm so jealous we didn't get to produce that. It's something I would have loved to produce, and it shows how the cars are built from starting from day one to all the way through the end, and they're all hand-built, which is still amazing. Going through the 911 plant is unbelievable. So let's take a look at that Macan again, or talk about it. And the Macan is it's a really stunning SUV, it's a smaller one. You guys have come out with it. It's been out for a couple years. So we talked about the entry level, which is this one, and it's $47,000. So it's pretty reasonable for a luxury SUV.
Right.
And then what can you do to it? We've got a real like full-on turbo model as well. Right.
Right. There's 4 variants now with the introduction of this one. There's the Macan with a turbocharged engine with 252 horsepower that we just talked about. There's a Macan S with.
This is a dreamy sequence. It's out of focus. I'm dreaming about it. I'm coming out of my dream.
Yeah. I'm starting to get that vibe as well.
I am dreaming about it though. I want to drive that one home.
Yeah. We were talking about it earlier. It's really, even if you've never driven an SUV before and you don't believe that an SUV can be fun to drive, I recommend that you take a spin in this
I'm not
car.
really an SUV guy. I really like the Wrangler I took out earlier in the day, but that's like a guy's thing.
Rugged.
And I
which is cool.
Yeah,
which
it
is
is.
cool. I'm
Oh,
glad
absolutely.
they're making that.
And I had a Wrangler. Was my first car. It should have been a Porsche, but I had a Wrangler. And then I do like the Escalade and Suburban, but that's a people move. I like it as a people mover. I like having the room, moving all the production gear. But this is I'm not an SUV guy. But this is an SUV I like. I would want to drive that.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is what we're trying to do is, and I think we're reasonably successful at it, is making the Porsche in every segment. This car drives, handles unlike any other thing in the segment. It's the only car in its class to have a dual clutch transmission standard. So it's really offering that Porsche feeling, that Porsche engagement, that Porsche driving experience behind the wheel.
It's beautiful. It handles well. It's got great fit and finish. It's a lot of fun to drive, great to look at, and certainly good for the family and everything you need. You can move gear. It's got good cargo space.
That's right. Not as big as the Cayenne, obviously.
Yeah.
The Cayenne still reigns supreme in terms of our premium luxury performance SUV, in terms of towing capacity, in terms of space, in terms of luxury amenities. But if you want something more nimble, more compact, the Macan's your car.
I think that I really like the Macan, but I think that what's interesting is Porsche really started the luxury brands getting into SUVs. You've seen a lot here. You've seen some debuts here from brands you never thought would make an SUV. Not that there wasn't Range Rover before, but it was really Range Rover and that was it. And that was a purpose-built luxury SUV, and nobody else even touched it. Lamborghini made the LM, before I get the emails about it, the LM002 years ago, but that was more of a joke, right? That was for a Saudi prince, and then they were like, we can make a few and sell them. But Porsche really is the first company to put into production and be successful with a luxury SUV that's a regular car manufacturer first, and then, started making SUVs, and now you see a lot of people follow suit. I think it's a huge testament to Porsche and the brand.
I think it's a very, very demonstrative of how we do business. We have a tremendous history. The 911 that we talked about is the best example, but at the same time, we're always challenging ourselves, and we're always going with the times and seeing in which areas can we do better and what's new ground. We introduced a all-electric concept at the Frankfurt Auto Show last year, the Mission E, which you'll see on the road in a couple of years. And the Cayenne was very much the same way. It was. There were luxury SUVs before, but none with that kind of performance. That's why we called it Cayenne, to spice things up. And that is really what Porsche is all about. It's maybe not being the first, but anything we make is going to touch, feel, smell, drive, sound like a Porsche.
Well, and certainly, like, you could make the case that the ML or the X5 were luxury SUVs before, but they weren't real. I mean, they were Mercedes and they were BMW, but they weren't this level, and it wasn't this level of performance in them. Staying, I don't want to say they didn't stay true to the brand, but it just was it's a completely different vibe. So I think you guys have done tremendous with it, and I love that you guys are getting into hybrids as well. You know, and looking at all electric, and we keep running this 918 piece we did a couple years ago here in the commercial breaks, and even that is amazing. What about you? How'd you get into cars?
So I started reading car magazines and looking at brochures. I have pictures at my desk of looking at 911 brochures in that case when I was 2 years old. So cars were always a topic for me. I'm from Germany originally, and I spent the last 10 years before I took this PR job at Porsche working for a German car magazine road testing cars. So cars, you know how you go through phases in life and there's things you take an interest in and then you kind of forget about them and they're not of interest anymore. Well, cars never lost interest. I was always in love with cars. And I think can be said for everyone on the floor here today. At the end of the day, no matter who's here, we're all a bunch of car enthusiasts.
Yeah.
And it's a great business to be in.
Absolutely. What was your favorite car growing up?
I had a lot of favorite cars.
What was the one you had the poster of that you were like, that's the car one day I want?
My walls were plastered.
Well, give me a couple. It doesn't have to be a Porsche.
There were Porsches. Yeah. I think we all had the 959 poster.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
You're an 80s child like me. But there was the Countach with the white one with the doors open. One of the later versions with the wings, which
I think that was a 25th anniversary Countach.
Yeah. And Mercedes also.
Which one? I was just saying Mercedes was on here before, and I was talking about the 300 SL. They were talking about the 300 SL. I said
there
it's
was
one of my
definitely
favorite cars
that,
of all time.
but I've always really liked the among many other Mercedes, the 600, the big state sedan, the one above the S-Class, the W100, as that we say in
the flagship
terms. Yeah. I just think that car has a really timeless, classy look to it. That's what a limousine should look like.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thanks so much for coming on. I hope we do a lot more with you and with Porsche. I'd love to do something in 360 with you guys in the future, and we love having you on every year here at the New York International Auto Show. And I got to tell you, I love driving the vehicles. They're unbelievable, and they just are so stunning, and I love that they're so reliable. So that's the thing. You can drive them every day. And I'm not just talking about the Macan and the Cayenne and the Panamera. I'm talking about the sports cars, the 911. I'm talking about the Cayman and the Boxster. And the Cayman, I guess, will come to the 718 number soon.
It's good that you mentioned that. Yeah, the Cayman, you'll see the 718 Cayman, as it will then be called in the course of this year.
Great.
And at least in terms of the introduction, and it will have the same turbocharged four-cylinder powertrains that the Boxster has.
I love all these turbocharged engines. I think, fuel efficient. I love the torque and super fast. So
right, and I think the messages, and there's been other manufacturers that have been through the same. We have a long history of naturally aspirated engines, but we also have a long turbo history dating all the way back to the early 70s, from racing, from the first 911 with 930 turbo, and don't be afraid of it. They sound great. It's every evolution. We don't go backwards.
Sure.
Every step forward is an evolution. There's better performance. The car drives better. It's more engaging. It's more fun. So embrace it. It's a great time to be a car enthusiast.
Top 5 Porsches of all time for you?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think we can't. The 918 Spider has got to be there. It's proof that hybrid is not just about fuel efficiency. It's a very, very important trait of that technology, but it's exciting. It's performance enhancing, and it fits to Porsche.
Okay.
So 918 Spider's got to be on there.
1.
Carrera GT. Any
it.
car that sounds like that, I don't care if it's Porsche or something else, has to be on that list. In this case, we're lucky it's one of ours, but Carrera GT V10 sound.
I think they call it the Porsche sound.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, but that one was very, very unique.
Absolutely. It was beautiful.
Even by our standards.
Yeah. I remember just being blown away by it. All right, so that's 2. You got 3 more.
Right. 911 GT2 RS.
All right.
997. That's the concept back then. I was talking to Andreas Preuninger, who's the head of the GT model line. He was here earlier to present the 911R. Basically, they had a GT3 RS, and someone asked the question, well, what would happen if we put a GT2 engine in there? And someone else asked the question, well, what would happen if we put a GT2 engine with more power in there? And lo and behold, the GT2 RS emerged.
Awesome.
So that would definitely be on there. The current 911 GT3 RS
beautiful
is a different take than the 911R. A lot more wing, a lot more aero going on. PDK as quick as possible on the track. I personally kind of like cars with wings.
Yes.
So that's
I do too.
That's
the whale tail from the
yeah,
80s. I
yeah.
mean, that was the big deal.
That's got to be on there. And 911R.
All right.
I think that's
beautiful.
That
is very cool.
That is
That's a good
definitely
choice.
a classic to come.
I'm going to give you two. I got the 930 slant nose Cabrio turbo, obviously, and I like the 3.4 that was in the movie Bad Boys, the 911 3.4.
Oh, the 3.6.
3.6 turbo.
Yeah,
and I'll give you one more. The 1997 Turbo S, the 911 Turbo S, because it had that huge wide body
Yep.
and
With
the
the
huge
vents
whale
and-
tail.
yep.
Yeah, the vents
Yep.
in the
well,
hips.
the thing with lists or like garages, there's never enough room.
That is true. Very
So-
true. Well, thanks so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. We look forward to doing more.
Thank you.
That's
It's been a
Frank.
pleasure.
I'm Michael. You're the Terrifics. We'll be back with a whole lot more of your live continuing coverage of the New York International Auto Show 2016 right after this on Be Terrific. Stay with us.